Hey, I'm PH, and welcome to another episode of Good Bible Knowledge with PhD. In this set of videos, I want to provide an enjoyable and helpful way to understand common questions about the Bible. I hope you'll find these videos helpful for your own spiritual journey in Jesus. So, let's get started. Where are all the numbers in the book of Numbers? Numbers is the fourth book of the seminal 5 books of the Old Testament, better known as the Pentateuch. In the Pentateuch, we see the early history of the nation of Israel, starting from the faith of Abraham, to the exodus out of Egypt, to the giving of the law at Mount Sinai. Numbers records the journey of the people from Mount Sinai to the Promised Land, and its title comes from the 2 censuses that occur in the book. After spending almost a year at Sinai, the people of Israel departed for the Promised Land. And all the way, God directed their journey through the wilderness and miraculously provided food and water for all the people. After 11 months' journey, Moses and the Israelites arrived at a place called Paran, at the very entrance of the Promised Land. And God instructed Moses to send 12 spies into the land and bring back a report. When the spies returned, they spoke to the people of how the land was filled with the blessing of God. But to possess the land, it would require an act of faith by the entire nation, for the land was also filled with a hostile people, whom the spies described as giants. When it came to make a decision, 10 of the spies said the task was impossible by any human means. But 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, answered, "We can do it through God's strength." But the people did not believe Joshua and Caleb and refused to enter the land. God was deeply saddened by this lack of faith. After he had delivered them out of Egypt with his mighty hand, and after he had provided and guided them through the wilderness for 2 years, the people still doubted God and refused to obey him in faith. And as a result, God declared that none of them, except Joshua and Caleb, would enter the Promised Land. And for 40 years, Moses and the Israelites wandered in the wilderness. The 2 censuses in the book of Numbers describes 2 generations, the number of people whom the Lord led out of Egypt at the beginning of Numbers, and the number of their children who actually entered the blessing of the Promised Land at the end of Numbers. The theme of Numbers is the tragedy of opportunity lost due to disobedience and a lack of faith, and it would serve as an unforgettable warning to this new generation about to enter into the land, that even in facing insurmountable obstacles, they must continue to walk by faith and live in obedience to God, and believe that this same God who has been faithful in the past will continue to be faithful in the future. The Bible says this very day today, we too stand at the doorstep of God's blessing, and God is yearning that we experience the fullness of his peace, his love, and his salvation. And just as in the book of Numbers, the only requirement is to exercise faith, to believe that God gave his son Jesus as a sacrifice for our sin and that he rose from the dead. Thank you for listening to another episode of Good Bible Knowledge. We'll see you next time.